Welcome back. I hope you're doing great. As a part of this video, we'll understand what is default constraint. By the way, what is default constraint? Default constraint is used to insert a default value into a column. What is the need to insert a default value into a column? Assume you have a employee table. It has multiple columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, like name, ID, address. Also, let us say column 4, phone number. Do you think all the employees will have all the data? Not necessarily. That is where we need to insert the default value wherever the data is not available for a particular record. So value will be added to all the new records if no other value is specified while inserting the data or loading the data into a table. How do we create a default constraint? Very simple. We have a couple of methods. We can add a default constraint while creating the table, or assuming that you have already created a table. Then you can also add a default constraint by using alter statement. If you don't want a default constraint, you can drop also. Let's take an example here. Look at this table. The table name is employees DC, that is default constraint. We have three attributes here: ID, name, and employee join date. Here, if you observe clearly, I am saying employee join date has a default constraint. So for a default, I am assigning one more function here. If I am inserting a record to this particular table with values 1, Lawrence, and the date, it accepts happily. But if I am neglecting to add a value for the date column, it will take a default date by system date. So let us look at this with an hands-on example. I logged into MySQL. Let me get into a university database. I am there. I will create a table with a default constraint. Before I create, let me explain you how I am creating a default constraint here. So the name of the table is employee DC, and it has three attributes: ID, name, and employee date. So for this employee date, if I say the default is current timestamp, again a function. So in case while inserting the data, the date is not provided, go ahead and fill the current timestamp. That is what it means. Let's go ahead and create a table. I created a table. Let me insert a couple of records here. First, I will insert a record which has all the values. You can see here, I'm saying 1, Lawrence, and date. One is for ID, Lawrence is name, and date is for employee date. So let me see if it got inserted or not. From employee. Okay. So it got inserted. In case if we don't have a value for a date, we are specifying take the default. In this case, I have not given any date yet, because we have defined a table with the default constraint for this column. It takes the date from a current timestamp. Let me hit enter now. It got inserted. Let us see what are the records here. Awesome. So even though we didn't provide any date for the second record, that is ID2 and Shady, it took the current timestamp. Awesome. We understood what is default constraint and how it works. Thank you.